BashBots by Octagonal Insects. You can dominate the BashBots with Mars's Flipper versus Cosmo's Spinning Blade. Octagonal Insects BashBots, each sold separately.
Hello everybody and welcome back to BashBots. I'm the Dominus Ignis and with me is the Dan Beaver, our match analyst. 6 nights are down and only 2 remain in the regular season, so every fight tonight will have tournament implications.
We are really hoping that you have a cold drink with you right now because this tournament is heating up. For most of our robots tonight, this will be their final fight, their final chance to impress the selection committee. Some of them are on the brink of making the bracket, while some others are pretty much locked in. They will have to decide how much they want to risk to get a better seed. Of course, for a few robots, they're just battling for pride, with an outside shot of shocking the selection committee enough into giving them a spot in the postseason.
As normal, we have 5 robot bashing fights lined up for you. First up, Tenderlove and Catch will be looking to go 3-1 on their season. Both have impressed all season long, so even if this fight goes badly for either, they should still have a chance of making the bracket. After that, all sitting at 1-1, ETA, Rampage and Firewave will be looking to go 2-1. This could be their final chance to make it into the top 16. In the Midway Major, it's Creator versus Creation. Business Cat and Cosmo will be taking on the man he was mentoring, Jonathan Schultz and Huge, driving the robot built in-game by Business Cat. After that, Glacier, Bad Language and Loki will all be squaring off in the arena, hoping to leave a lasting impression, as all 3 have had struggles during the season. For our main event, it's a flashback to Season 2 as Panther finally gets a shot at revenge against a robot that knocked them out, Sparks. Let's get into our first fight.
If you've watched BashBots for a very long while, then I imagine that Tenderlove and Catch are 2 names that you've seen so many times. I think Tenderlove is probably in with the best shot of winning this fight. It isn't a positive record, but then, of course, so are both of these robots, that's not a big thing. It came off a very good victory against Rage Against the Fridge. And also, with the way it's designed, even if Catch gets a flip, the rest of Tenderlove can just kind of swing its way over, so it's not really in that much of a disadvantaged situation.
Normally, I would be with you all the way on Tenderlove, but this time around, with the strong performance that Catch has had all season long, I've got to go with them on this one. Especially with an emphatic victory, flipping Shock Factor out of the arena, Catch has done exceptionally well this time around. Tenderlove is great, I will never deny that, but this time around, I have got to be backing Catch on this one. I think they've got this in the bag.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? It's robot fighting time! Let's bring out the bots! In the red square, from the UK, would it look out of place on a deli counter? It's Tenderlove! In the blue square, from the United Kingdom, Peter had best not find out about this one, it's Catch!
I'm a bit scared. If I go 2-2, I don't like my chances of getting into the top 16. Catch has a top flip on it. It could easily get me out if I don't pay enough attention to what's happening in the fight. I just need to be really careful and be as aggressive as I possibly can.
My strategy for this fight will be the same as it mostly has been for the rest of the series, although Tenderlove is a very interesting design with a very low wedge at the front, so getting around the sides will be crucial and not letting it get under me at all if possible. try and use the flips a bit more often so that it has less control, and just push it towards the corner as much as possible so I can get it out of the arena.
Well, it's the perfect attendance squad. We've seen every Tenderlove fight this season so far. We've seen every Catch v4 fight. One of them will be moving on to the top 16 for sure. The other may be in doubt.
Well, we have seen some remarkably close BashBots fights in the last few episodes, and this could have the potential to be yet another one. Ooh. Tenderlove and Catch, and it's Tenderlove with the early drive here on its opponent.
Yeah, both of these robots carrying 2-1 records with some great wins and some very close defeats in those single losses they've picked up. At 3-1, someone will absolutely be moving on. It's harder to say what will happen to the robot that goes 2-2. But it's most curious in that Tenderlove has been a past success in all BashBots competitions it's taken part in, whereas Catch was a very small presence in the previous season, and now they've come back to this one looking better than ever, a completely new machine, and they've done so well. It would frankly be a pity for either of these two to end up on 2-2, but somebody must, and I couldn't tell you right now who that's going to be.
Absolutely, and after Tenderlove's quick start here, Catch has made a response to show just how much it has improved this season, and it's pinning Tenderlove in dangerously close to the arena wall again. Very, very close stuff, as expected, so far in the opening minutes. Oh, wow!
Well, I don't think it was part of Tenderlove's strategy to make use of the arena spike there, but they capitalised relatively well. They didn't manage to get it into the grinder or anything, but they're still being perhaps the most reliable machine in the competition so far for getting under those very low scratchy claws of Catch v4.
Now it's pit button enabulation time. Will either of these two go for it? They'd both be inclined to, but also at the same time to be cautious because the other could end up putting them down into it. Very close, very respectable, both of them clearly giving each other the space they deserve, because they know they can be punished if they make a false move here.
Tenderlove, absolutely the type of robot that is designed to win fights by getting its opponent into the pit, but they very, very rarely do. Usually not on the Tenderlove team's minds, but nevertheless they have, after pressing the button, proceeded to ignore it and keep the action within that same half of the arena. They do feel like they're on top right now, but even a couple flips from Catch v4 could swing this out of nowhere, like that one.
There was one indeed. Well, we had a minute of fast action, a minute of sparring, feeling each other out, and now we have the final minute. And we've had a couple of, again, cuddly, touchy moments from both of them. Can we see a decisive flip, a decisive clamp? A decisive drive in the closing stages. Well, it's Tenderlove that's getting jammed up after the Catch flip there. And could that be something notable when the judges get their scorecards out?
Yes, if you're Tenderlove, you absolutely don't want this final 30 seconds to exist. You don't want that to exist either. They're gone.
Well, if there was one way to show that Catch really has improved this season, there you have it in a second.
That is truly out of nowhere. If this did go to a judge's decision, I would have said that Catch was making a huge comeback within that final 30 seconds, but it may have been too late. I think Tenderlove had the upper hand for too long in this fight to ignore, but Catch v4, with that sudden out of the arena flip, has just put themselves into the top 16, while Tenderlove will just have to wait and see.
And winning by out of the arena, Catch is victorious with a 3-1 record. Tenderlove, meanwhile, finishing 2-2, but both robots have an incredibly likely chance of making it into the postseason. let's head on into our next match and our first Rumble of the night.
Some might say that too many rumbles are bad for you. I say that's a big steamy load of cow poo. ETA, Rampage and Firewave are all at 1-on-1. They're all battling for pride and maybe an outside shot at getting into the bracket. Now, Dom, outside of a miracle, there isn't too much of a big chance of getting into the bracket, even if you win this fight. Though I have to say, I'm really hoping Firewave gets that chance. It's an old favourite of mine, it's been around since the beginning of BashBots, and it just has such a presence to it that you can't ignore, and I think Mystic agrees with me there. He thinks the other two robots could definitely gang up on Firewave here, so he is going to try and stay away from them and get up to full speed.
Now ETA managed to pull a close judge's decision in their last fight against Tracker and Ace 5, and Moldy has become much more confident in the robot now than he was at the beginning. Even he believes that it could potentially make it into the top 16 with a good enough showing here, and I personally agree with them all the way here.
But as always, we can't forget Rampage coming in from real life. Rampage has another presence that you just can't ignore. I mean, hell, it even beat Huge all the way back in the first episode, and sure, while it's never reached those heights since, it might be some more damage than we thought, Rampage can't be ignored, and it would be nice to see it get some success in the virtual world as well, here in BashBots.
Well, Rumbles have proven to be a familiar environment for ETA and Firewave now. That's where they got both of their previous wins. Rampage was a main event winner. Hasn't worked quite as well since, though.
Well, this is an interesting blend of machines in that arena. 1-on-1, as you can see, for all of them. So they know how it feels to win, they know how it feels to lose. Who is going to take the next win from these three here? It was Firewave with the first big attack there on Rampage.
Yes, Firewave certainly the most familiar with victory. They've always been a quiet force in BashBots, secretly doing well, never quite as well as Thunderwave, but they're certainly getting an edge here as they rip off the other part of Rampage side wedge.
Well, Firewave were worried that they'd be ganged up on in this fight, but so far they've been able to split the attention of both of their opponents and damage both of them with separate hits, and definitely made the strongest start here. Who can make a response from the other two as ETA gets flipped again?
Include me, says the Arena Spike. Include me. Firewave, they've been backhanding everyone for the past period of this fight, and it's working out remarkably well.
Again, ETA knocked aside there. Rampage trying to get into this fight, but gets a massive slap in response to even suggest it could be a factor in this fight. This is the Firewave we are used to, and honestly, so's the flip into the air. It's crazy, it's destructive. This is the Firewave we know.
Spreading those flames all across the arena. If you get that fire too close to a wall, you might melt it and kill everyone in the audience. So if you could try and keep it towards the centre of the arena. What did I just say, Firewave?
Everybody went in the air there. And now the pit button is enabled. We don't need any more drama, do we? ETA with its first real successful flip there on Firewave. Controlled, nicely done.
But then
Rampage
failing to get
wedges
away
over.
and show that proper control as they just sat there waiting for the giant spinner to land on them.
Another collision there. Not a clean one affecting anybody, but now it is Rampage again losing armor and the wheels more and more exposed on both sides, and ETA with another clever fling. 55 to play.
That weapon assembly, I think they're losing. Rampage looking attacked on Teal!
Oh my
It's been deflected over the pit, they're just about hanging on. ETA, meanwhile, wasn't even paying attention. They took the absolute opportunity of a lifetime to get a flip on Firewave while it was busy waiting to see if it had gotten an accidental knockout. Rampage, that was its first little trickle of an attack there. They haven't really been much of a force in this fight compared to the other two, it must be said. Firewave, though, I think you need to get rid of them if you want to try and win this fight. With 20 seconds left, they've got a bit of a lead here.
Now, ETA has made an attempt at a comeback, but Firewave is trying to make sure that it's in no doubt if it does go all the way. 10 seconds for a miracle. Can it happen? ETA with the flip, Rampage with the drive forward into nothing. 4, 3. Is that going to be a mad moment?
That could have been the miracle.
Oh my god.
Not one that you'd attribute to anybody. But that's going to be the end of an exciting three-way rumble. Not the closest necessarily, but ETA isn't out of this. Rampage, I would suspect, probably is. They've taken the most damage from all of their opponents, thrown around by both. They got some nice late little hits on ETA, but never really did anything to threaten Firewave, who ultimately proved to be the biggest threat, taking chunks out of everybody, never being put in massive danger unless they were putting themselves into that danger, like we saw there. No one could do anything to affect them too badly. We had some good flips from ETA, but they always managed to find a way back.
The judges' results are in. We have a split decision. And the winner is ETA!
And ETA takes the judge's decision win, moving up to 2-1. Meanwhile though, Rampage and Firewave disappointingly finish 1-2. I'm really hoping they can come back next season because I really enjoyed watching them.
And this fight is the one that I think I've been the most excited for all night. Cosmo versus Huge. Cosmo absolutely destroyed Vertically Unchallenged in their last fight, but the most important thing is that Business Cat knows the Gmod version of Huge inside and out, given that they helped to build the robot and have been mentoring Jonathan Schultz so far. Cosmo even is going to be making adjustments in order to be able to take Huge on, removing the wedgelets and adding more weight to the disc.
Both of these robots have some really big pedigree, but in completely different planes of reality. Huge, however, it got a really good win in its last fight, defeating both Errand and Slapshot, and I think Jonathan agrees that that was a very good win. Clearly Jonathan's been learning quite a lot throughout the season, and I think it's all going to come to a head here. Not to mention, Cosmo's a very meta-vert, which is exactly the kind of robot that Huge was created to beat.
Well, no matter how this fight goes, I guarantee you won't be spacing out during this one. So let's head on down to the arena for this amazing fight.
Well, Huge, one of the hardest designs to deal with in the whole sport, but if anyone knows what to do with it, it may well be the builder of Cosmo who helped to build this Huge in the first place.
And here we go. Well, Huge has had a very interesting start to its BashBots career. A rather underwhelming first fight. A good return to form to get it going again. Oh, but there goes one of its stabilizers already here. Could it be a show to absolute brutality on the part of Cosmo here?
Yes, Cosmo, our defending runner-up, they really wouldn't like to encounter something as dangerous as Huge at this stage of the competition, or indeed their own spinner as they go bouncing around the place. But generally, as we say, the builder of Cosmo did create this version of Huge as well to entrust it to its capable driver of Jonathan Schultz. But if anyone's going to know how to deal with it, surely it would be Cosmo. The winner of this will of course move to 3-1 and will no doubt be in the top 16. I wouldn't rule out either one should they fall down to 2-2. Just depends how many opportunities they'll get to separate themselves from those robots with greater or equal records.
Well, there goes the tread. Overall, though, since losing that stabilizer, Huge has kept in this fight really well. It has dealt out some solid hits of its own. It's knocked Cosmo over, and it will still be very much in the balance at this stage. It needs to get in a damaging hit of its own, but that is a shattering hit! More than that, and it's a smoking hit as well! Is that a KO hit? You bet it might well be! That's incredible from Huge! From absolutely nowhere, it has done it! There you go! KO confirmed! And a flame as well for Cosmo!
The strategy was working.
What was the strategy?
Send it with reach and go for the wheels.
Well, Well, let's have a little flashback to when Cosmo was still alive, as it punts its own project of Huge away and into the air. Not the perfect performance. They were knocked over a couple of times, but they seemed like they were generally on top and holding up well. But with no front wedge on Cosmo, they just got blasted with a straight to the front hit. Huge not unfazed either, but Cosmo leaves in flames.
And winning by KO, Huge makes it to 3-1 in a very, very safe spot to be in the bracket. Cosmo, meanwhile, will be finishing 2-2, and they'll be wishing on the stars to get into the bracket this time around.
After touching grass in the last two fights, we're heading back to good old video game robots for this next Rumble, as we have Glacier, Bad Language, and Loki. I've got to go with Loki. It suffered massive damage against Sparks, sure, but the fact that they managed to last long enough to make it to a judge's decision tells me that there is surprisingly good durability in the design. It's hard to say if they're going to be at 100% heading into this one, but I've got to tell you, Loki, I think, is a dark horse headed into this one.
Well, it's a dark horse certainly, but I don't think it would be an 8-legged one. Anyways, Bad Language. It performed very well against Mars in its last fight, and it only really lost due to driver error. Sibbles has said that he will try to be more conservative with his flips this time around, because you don't want to lose in the same way twice, do you?
Bad Language definitely does have a good chance in this one, but we cannot forget about Glacier either. Winning a good fight against Firewave in its first fight, however losing to Claymore in its next. I can't hold it too badly against Glacier, as I've known Claymore since the Robot Arena 2 days, and I still think it's an incredibly impressive robot. But with that all being said, I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's just head on right down to the arena for this Rumble.
Well, Bad Language and Loki both on 1-1, only off the back of losses to champions like Mars and Sparks. Glacier's record not quite as impressive, but only one will move to 2-1.
Well, Loki is in this Rumble, and it is more of a low-key Rumble for the names in here. Glacier for the biggest name, but who knows, this is an opportunity for any of these machines to take something quite decent here.
Nice, and Glacier throwing Loki all across the arena with the assistance of the grinder. That was a good attack.
Language skirting over Glacier there, which looks very nippy and manoeuvrable. Getting wedged up there a little bit though by Loki. And then Bad Language trying a little thrust of its own a bit opportunistically. Oh, Glacier is tumbled! Gets back over though.
Bad Language is the one who's here off the back of a loss to Mars, one where apparently they were winning most of the match. Really, it's quite a pity we didn't see that one. Loki with the damaging loss to Sparks, Glacier with the Firewave win, as we'll remember. But this is a good grab from Loki, running into the pit release button, but unfortunately it's not time for that hazard to be enabled, but still a good slam nevertheless.
Yeah, really interesting fight so far. Glacier is certainly the most active-looking machine, but it has been Loki grabbing onto the front of Bad Language that has been the most notable and consistent trend in this fight so far. What is going to happen next?
This is another good run from Loki, but meanwhile interrupted by Bad Language, just throwing Glacier aside from within the grasp of Loki.
Loki again clamping down, and Glacier force shooting up from our arena floor flipper. Huh, an incredible period of action there, as the Loki grab then gets separated from Glacier. Just over a minute to play, and it's still very much up for grabs here as Loki goes for another grab while Glacier goes from in behind on Loki.
The two front hinge flippers, they've had great little attacks when they're brought into play, but they have struggled a little bit with getting underneath their opponents properly. Loki, they have perhaps the weapon you typically see the least of in a fight, but they've been somewhat of a dominant force. The only problem is every time they do manage to get a successful grab, they can just be interrupted by the other flipper. so their moments of dominance haven't lasted quite as long as they would do if this was a head-to-head environment. But that's a great little drive, burning away at the Glacier while Bad Language was kept on the other side of the arena, so that is some uninterrupted controlled damage and aggression from Loki.
Yeah, Loki has been very controlled, very measured, and impressive so far. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to win this fight on the judge's decision, but it's making a really, really good case to do so. Glacier lining up a flip, but not even trying to fire there. And Bad Language, it had a good period in the middle with its flips, but overall has been inconsistent. That's a good one in there, though, with seconds to play.
Yes, Loki clearly the most different out of these three. It's always going to be a case of comparing the performance of Bad Language to that of Glacier. Loki, meanwhile, utterly incomparable. Do you go for a flipper or the absolute wild card? Well, we'll have a look. Certainly the interactions between Glacier and Bad Language were quite minimal. They didn't team up by any means, but they also didn't really attack each other a huge amount. Typically the attacks were either focused on Loki or initiated by Loki. But did they get more attacks than they received?
The results from the judges are in. We have a unanimous decision. And the winner is Loki!
And winning by judge's decision, Loki moves up to tier 1 to get that last final chance.
Before our main event, let's take a look at how two more robots fared in their third fights. First up, Siren and Wishbone faced off in the arena. Unfortunately, the Seabull was not able to carry over the momentum from his victory against Cosmo, and Wishbone ended up taking a judge's decision.
After that, there was a battle between Ryu Kitchen and Gumdrops. Fire selected to go with a radical new setup for this fight in an attempt to catch Evil Toast's robot off guard, but it proved ineffective as they were flipped over and were unable to self-right. Back to the action for our main event.
Man, what an electrifying main event! Sparks versus Panther. Two incredibly successful robots with 2-0 records ready to duke it out. Beaver, which robot do you think is going to come out on top in this one?
Well, Dom, since you so kindly asked, I'm going to have to say Sparks. It's still the absolute monster that won Season 1. It's still the monster that did so well last season. Just on name alone, Sparks has such a good stake to win this entire tournament. And yet despite that, Jagged isn't convinced on his new lighter hitting weapon that he has for this season. But he is planning to swap it out when it gets to the postseason. He's going to stick with it. What that says to me is pure unbridled confidence, and that's something that I don't think Panther's going to have going into this fight against Sparks.
Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I disagree this time. Panther has won both fights so far by judge's decision, which normally that's not anything to go crazy about, but it demonstrates one key point: durability, which is going to be extremely handy in this fight. Part of that, as the driver themselves notes, is the compact nature of Panther this time around, which is going to help it have an advantage when taking on Sparks.
Well, I think it's safe to say that both robots have really improved over the last few years, and that this should be a matchup for the Legends books. I'm excited to see it, Dom's excited to see it, you're excited to see it. Let's get down to the arena.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event. Let's bring out the bots. In the red square, from Northern Ireland. Might be Northern, still complains about the English. It's Sparks. In the blue square, from Wales. Powered by cheese on toast and coal, it's Panther.
The strategy for this one is mainly to target the sides of the front wedge and the weapon supports, while keeping an eye open for any gyro. If one side lifts up, then I may be able to take a shot directly at his drive.
Well, I'm fighting a legendary robot here, so I'm going to be really cautious. I fought this machine before in Season 2 in a Rumble, pretty much tore me in half. And I'm only sure it's just improved from them, so If I keep the aggression on him, try and stop that bar from spinning up. If I can get it to stall, great. That's the plan. I'm just got to keep my wedge towards him. If he hits my sides, it's terrible.
Well, it's a delight to see these two fight again. They did meet before in the wildcard final of Season 2, where Panther did very, very well until Sparks blew it up. Can that lighter weapon of it do the same thing?
Well, this is mouth-watering. Fans will have wanted this. Fans are going to get this. This could be an absolutely monumental matchup if both Panther and Sparks are at their best here. Let's see what happens.
Panther moving quicker than ever. Panther more durable than ever. They have the option of different weapons, but they've gone for the two spinners, of course. Sparks, meanwhile, they've gone for a lighter weapon for this season compared to previous ones to be more consistent. Like with that direct hit to the tracks, Panther, frankly, is already lucky to still be alive.
Sparks is now overturned, though, and can Panther try and build a head of steam from that interaction? It's a spiralling Sparks and then a jittering Panther. Both machines a little bit more, whoa, I was going to say a bit more in their shell than compared to when they first faced each other, but now the chaos might just start to unravel perhaps.
And more hits underneath Panther. We really don't want to see Panther taking damage there. That's another hit to the tracks, possibly the other set of tracks. It seems to be moving relatively okay, maybe slower than it once was, but surely it can't take too many more horizontal hits.
Well, Panther's absolute dominant spell over Sparks when they first faced each other was an eye-catching moment in BashBots history. So far in this matchup it hasn't quite happened, but there's still time for Panther to show us what it's made of, and it is slowly making a bit of a comeback here perhaps.
Oh, but then caught on the wall and taking more hits from behind. Both of these spinners are getting great hits onto each other, but in a rare situation, we do have to say that Sparks is probably winning on control right now with much more precise hits to delicate areas on Panther, who in return has more just gone head first, gone for weapon-to-weapon collisions that usually come out on top in them. Verticals beating horizontals in this situation. There's a good hit from behind, but Sparks very rarely takes significant damage from these kind of attacks. We'll need to see some more aggression from Panther in the final minute.
Well, in that rally of blows from Panther there, Sparks has lost the wheel bracket to one of its wheels, so maybe it's an opportunity for it to start an opening. But again, Panther, when it is overturned, really struggles and really tends to get punished. And that is a massive moment for Sparks, and it swats away the weaponry it just decapitated.
Certainly, I thought we'd lose a track before we lost a spinner, but they've clearly got enough mobility to turn themselves over. I really want to know what those tracks are made out of. They're standing up to unreasonable amounts of damage, but with a whole spinner missing, things are looking sour from Panther in the final stages.
The one-bladed Panther has had a couple of really good jabs here late on. Who knows if it will be enough? It has been another encounter that will go deep and go all the way. And who will take the win here, Panther or Sparks?
Side by side at the end there.
That was a good one. I think I need some super glue.
So let's revisit when these robots were in full working order, which I'll be honest didn't last very long. Sparks was so sneaky with that backward hit to the side of Panther. Generally, when you've got a wedge and vertical spinners against a horizontal, usually it's easier for the wedge to rack up those control points, but Sparks was so accurate with its swings, it's just unfortunate that it didn't quite cause the damage that it was hoping for. Maybe a switch back to that heavier weapon from seasons past will benefit them in the end, but they were able to get critical damage in the late stages, and that was a whole weapon of Panther's removed, which did have its impact on the self-righting as well. A great performance from both sides though. Who's won this one?
The results from the judges are in. we have a unanimous decision. And the winner is... Sparks!
And winning by judges' decision, Sparks is now 3-0 as they're almost assuredly going to be in the top 16. Panther with a 2-1 record doesn't need to sweat too much, as I think they've got a pretty good chance as well.
That marks the end of another night of combat. For most of our robots tonight, they are now playing the waiting game, hoping and praying that they will make it into the top 16.
So taking a look at the big picture tonight, Catch finishes their Season 3 and 1 with a stellar performance against Tenderlove. ETA with that judge's decision has put their season back on track, and massive wins for Huge, Loki and Sparks as well. What was your standout performance tonight?
Without a doubt, it has got to be Huge. If we look at where they were back at the start of the season with that loss to Rampage, they've come so far. They've just beaten Cosmo, they took down our lights. Those are some massive steps for them, and yeah, I don't think it could be anyone else for the standout performance.
Definitely, they look primed to make a top 16 run in just their first season here on BashBots. Undoubtedly a fan favourite here. That's all from us here tonight at BashBots. We thank you very much for watching and we hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, good night.